Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Programming with Mr. Incongruous. Today we are going to do something a little different because we are going, instead of solving problems, we will work in a medium-sized programming project from start. It will probably take us 2, maybe 3 sessions to finish. The idea is to show you the reasoning behind each of the steps we take, kind of like a beginner would do it. So for all these projects, I still have a rough idea on how to do them, but I am not researching beforehand or taking any extra steps to make sure I get everything right on the first try or anything, because I want this to be a show of what could happen to you as you start working on your own project. I was thinking on what a good first project would be for us, and I came to two main ideas, and the one that finally won was a document generator using Word, a special library that will allow us to interact and create Word documents to create a very small interactive document generator. That would be the first part, and the second part of this same project would be to add a very elementary, I guess you could say, user interface using Python's embedded user interface creation library called tkinter or Kinter. The jury is still out there for that. Now, as I mentioned, I didn't completely think this through or code anything, but I did create a mock-up of what the end result should be, which is here, mockup.png. So the document generator, it could be anything. It could be for hospitals sending messages to their patients or their families. It could be a legal document generator for different servings, lawsuits, and so on. In this case, it would be a letter sent by the principal of a school telling parents how their children did in their admission exams. So we have the first name, the last name of the person responsible for these children or for this child. We have the name of the child number 1. I should add a second column with the last name, because sometimes children don't have exactly the same last name as their parents, and we want to be flexible with that. We will have a drop-down menu with their gender and just a checkbox to check to see if they have been accepted or not. The interesting part here is that it shouldn't be just dear Mr. or Mrs. I should probably include a gender or pronoun drop-down menu on the right to make that distinction. And it should detect whether there is a single child, if there are many children, if they are all male, if they are all female. So it can say, regarding the application process for your sons or for your daughters or for your children, and then go one by one saying whether they have been accepted or not. We will have a button to generate a letter, a button to save the profile of the person we are talking about, and another button to load a profile from what we have already saved. Now, as you can see, this isn't exactly a small project. It's not huge. It's not creating our own operative system or a video game or anything of the sort, but it has at least 2 or 3 large parts. We have the generation itself, we have the user interface, and we have the saving and loading, which are 3 aspects that are important and which must be tackled separately. It's good in these cases, before starting, take a few minutes or a few hours, depending on the scope of your project, to really think through and write down what its main components are going to be. I usually write them down in a physical notebook, a pen and paper notebook, which would not be ideal for this. So what I will do is just write down in a Word document, which we will save here. New. I'm a cheapskate, so I don't have a proper Word license, so I use OpenOffice. Now this would be document generator notes. Let's go with WordPad, whatever. Okay, we will change the font to Arial. That looks better. We will increase the font, so yeah, there we go. Increase the font so everyone can hopefully see it clearly. And we'll go. Document generator. Actually, this looks reasonable. We need the logic for the document generation. We need to create the interface, and we need to be able to create a system for saving and loading parent profiles. Okay, I think it would be better to go in this order, because the saving and loading, it would be vital on a real life project, but in our case it's almost an afterthought. So once we have the logic and the documents are being generated correctly, then we will start working on saving and loading. The first thing we need to do is to tell Python how can it access and interact and create Word documents. We could theoretically start tinkering in our computers and struggling to create a library of our own that will allow us to generate documents in the right format with the correct instructions and so on, but trust me, it would take ages and ages and ages and ages. So obviously we have to cheat, which in our case means going to our good friend Mr. Google here and ask, Mr. Google, how can we create Word documents using Python? And how to create Word documents using Python. Okay, let's see. How can this one is from 2011, so probably not exactly up to date. The python-docx. This is the one we are looking for. We click here. There we go. Python/docx is a Python library for creating and updating Microsoft Word (.docx) files, which, what a marvelous coincidence, is exactly what we need. Let's go and here we have a bunch of code that should give an example of how different functions from this library actually work. Let's see, installing. Python/docx is hosted on PyPy, so installation is relatively simple. Python-docx may be installed with pip if you have it available. Pip is, to be completely honest, I'm not sure exactly what it is. As far as I know, it's a program that comes with our Python distribution that helps us install other libraries. In order to actually use pip to install this, in Windows we press the Windows key, go cmd, which I apologize, I shouldn't point at the screen, just use the cursor. Go where it says command prompt, and here we copy what it says in this line, and hopefully we won't have any problem. It's usually my experience that the most difficult, most stressful, and most annoying part of a new project or working with a new piece of software or library is actually the installation and setup process rather than using the software or tool itself. Let's hope that such is not the case now. Pip install python-docx. We hit enter. Then requirements already satisfied. It seems like I'd already installed this and had forgotten about it. Let's check just in case. We will just use our exercises file and see how this goes. Oh, for fancies. Where was this? Oh, yeah. We will copy this and see if it works. Ah, there it uses an image. So we will, yeah, why not? Monty Python. Save image as, and we will just save it as test.jpg. Go here, test.jpg, and execute it using F5 or run module. Let's see what happens. Oh, this is strange. Now we go to our Python folder and voila, we have our demo.docx. We open it and we have our image and everything. Let's examine what is going on here so we can get a better notion of how this program actually works. This is, sorry about the cluttering. It's difficult to balance giving you a good look at my handsome face and also a good look at this handsome screen. So sorry about that. Okay, first of all we import document, we import inches, document equals document. This must be to create a blank document, and here we start going through it. P equals document dot add paragraph, a plain paragraph having sum, P, which is this paragraph, dot add run. The text is bold, and we have a method which is bold, or a parameter to be more precise. Bold equals true. Here it is defining that bold equals true, so we can see that this part is in bold letters and some italic. Notice how it doesn't, despite being in different lines, once you see it here, it's all in one line because it's all part of the same paragraph, which will be really useful when we start working with our acceptance or rejection letter. And some italic, document.add heading, add paragraph intense quote, heading level 1, intense quote within the header level 1. We won't need this with our current project, but it could be useful in the future. Document.add paragraph in first item in an unordered list, which is probably what we will use for the enumeration and listing of the different children of those parents. Let's keep going. Document.add picture. We are adding test.jpg. Unfortunately this is in inches, which is far from ideal, but can't look a gift horse in the mouth now, can we? And records 374. Okay, spam X, and here it creates a list taking these records. for quantity, ID, disk, and records, it adds the corresponding item as we can see here. Spam X, spam, spam X, and spam. How incredibly original. Now we have seen how this thing works. It's time to get to it. We will comment out the sections that might be useful and delete the rest. We could have a picture for maybe a logo for our fictional school. Add paragraph, we already have it. Add heading isn't necessary. Italics, bold, paragraph, heading, and document equals document. Now we should think what should the base letter say. Let's go with something absolutely vanilla or standard. Boring test document. This will be the model we will use to make sure everything is all right. Dear Mr. Mrs. This will be our template for the document we want to create. Let's, as you have probably noticed, there are some parts that will always be the same, while others will change depending on the information that should be fed into the document generator. Let's see here. Let's start from the beginning. This, for the moment, isn't necessary. The first thing is a dear. Okay. P, yeah, let's go with that. P equals document dot our paragraph. Dear space and P dot add run. Here, what we want to do is change the address form depending on what has been entered beforehand. We will deal with that in the user interface part of this project. So for the time being, we will just use placeholders to make sure everything works as it should. So we will say parent last name equals, as we said, Johnson, and address form will be Mr. So now we should add a run, which means a new addition to the paragraph that won't break the line because it's all in one and the same paragraph. P dot add run address form. This will get a little bit tedious, but it's necessary. We add a space and we add the last name, colon. I think this is enough to start at least. We can close this and we will say we will keep demo.docx. This is very important. The Python won't ask us if we want to save or rewrite or keep or anything. It will just pass over and save exactly what we tell it to save. And if there's anything with that name in the same directory, it will just delete it and put the new file in its place. Let's sacrifice demo.docx for science. As you can see, this works really fast. We can see that 11:33 p.m., which is 7:33 p.m. Pacific time. And here we have our incredibly impressive document. Dear Mr. Johnson. Pure poetry, right? Funny thing is, we can just change this execute again, and we would have a different document. This is the essence and what makes it so interesting. In the future, if you are so inclined, you could have a whole list of people and just use a loop to go through all of them and create different documents, different letters, for example, or what have you. So this, even though it looks like meh, it can save you loads and loads and loads of time. What was the next thing we had? We can add a blank paragraph. It's okay if we keep the P naming because it redefines itself, so it shouldn't affect the previous paragraphs we have added. Okay, so the next one says, it is my pleasure to contact you regarding blah 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 blah. Remember this one, if we have single quotes, it's better to just use double quotes. Let's see how this goes. Nope, my bad. Should use triple quotes. And now if I do something like this, it should execute correctly. This isn't working as it should. It's actually taking the line break here as a line break that goes in the document, so we will just have to get everything in a single line, I'm afraid. Hogwash School of Listings and Carpentry. I think we should leave it here. This will be a shorter session than what is usual, because on the next session for the listing of the children, what we will do is we will create what are called dictionaries, which is a new variable type which we haven't examined yet, that will allow us, as the name says, to store many different variables, but instead of accessing each element based on an index number, we do so based on a string or key that serves as key to access that information. Just like when we want to know the meaning of a given word, for example aardvark, we go to the dictionary and look for the word aardvark, which will serve as the key to the definition of the word. I will show you how these things work in the next episode. Please let me know in the comments or send me a message telling me what you think about this, and I think I will see you all next Monday for the following round of programming exercises. As usual, thank you very much for joining me tonight. I'll see you soon, and happy programming!